I guess the questions that I have is there a significant difference between a CDA and a CDC? Let me just kind of give all these three a couple questions at once. Perhaps you can answer that.
Can you just say what you mean?
CDC, I guess that's supposed to be again some sort of a corporate development.
You mean a community development corporation?
Community development corporation.
That's
yes.
an organization that actually is a developer in the community. I think what was discussed before.
Okay, so they can't go to the extent of the CDA. I take it. They don't have the capacity.
CBA is an agreement.
I mean CBA rather.
CBA is an agreement or a policy.
Okay.
And anybody can negotiate CBAs.
Okay.
So CDC could negotiate a CBA for sure.
Find out. And also the negotiator. Does this negotiator, do you have to have them bonded or some sort of accountability? Because at some point I can see where the negotiator could possibly be bought out themselves and say this is as far as I can go and bam, and then have a little thing under the table for themselves.
That's a point that it would have been good for me to bring up earlier, but thank you for raising the question. We have a rock-solid, written-in-stone policy that we do not take money from developers, period. We don't take money, and generally the way we do that is the lead organization that's staffing, to the extent there is, takes no money. And if there's other money going to, say, First Source Hiring Program or other things, then generally there's a competitive process associated with it. So there may be coalition members that access some resources, but it's purely as a result of the development and the most, above board way. And except for a public entity, I don't think there's a single process where there hasn't been money offered. So that's why you have to have you don't just ever have one negotiator. You're going to have a team of negotiators. And this is something that's talked about early on. No money across the table. Okay. So if you're planning to be a partner with a developer, say there's a big development project and they want to bring in a nonprofit housing developer, and you want to be that developer, you should not be in the coalition negotiating CBA. Well, part of the Partnership for Working Families is we created a community benefits law center, and it's staffed by 2 attorneys who specialize in CBA. And they've actually done a lot of work to support folks in New Orleans and in other places. Generally, what we try to do through the Community Benefits Law Center is to train local attorneys on how to support CBA negotiations. But the bottom line is this stuff costs money. There's no way around it. And you got to have a fundraising strategy to have the staff to be able to do it. And whether it's from foundations, where we've gotten a lot of our support, or events, or other types of institutional donors, and that are not developers, that you got to have money. And for example, the project that Maria led on the LX CBA, I think we had 3 full-time staff, at least 3 full-time staff, plus all of the other support for several years. That was fun. We got to cut it off. Primarily through foundations, and then we have an annual event and things like that. We build that into our program, though. We build the researchers, the organizers, the policy leaders into our staff so that we have the expertise to pull from if we decide to take on a project.
Were you representing the entire Los Angeles area, or was it a specific project? For your CBA, are you citywide or are you project based?
LAANE is we consider our area of concern LA County, but that doesn't mean that we're going to do that we're going to do CBAs on every single project in LA County. There are lots of other organizations that actually we support who have done CBAs in LA County very successfully.
The one thing I'd like to know a little more about then is in terms of, I really like the whole idea of putting the CBA requirements in RFPs, both at state and local level, because then you kind of build it in. So was there any particular strategies in terms of working with legislators or whomever to get that integrated into some contractual agreements or procedures?
Well, it's basically, there's no magic to it. You work on the staff of the redevelopment agency. You try to get your people appointed to positions of influence. You work with your, decision makers, the city council, and then as a project is coming up, you know it's coming up. You go through a process to demand that there be an RFP. And ideally, you have a policy that any project on publicly owned land, or even that's using redevelopment powers and public money, goes through an RFP process. And there are different ways to do RFP process depending on whether, anyway, there's owners. Anyway, the basic is competition.
Well, I mean, I think that's going to be the key thing in coalition building, is building trust, because you have different entities that don't have an experience of working together, and may also have an experience of working against one another. In particular, environmental organizations and labor in the past, right? So that's one of the tasks as an organizer, is building that trust among coalition members, and part of that is an agreement, right, in the beginning, that as we move forward in this negotiation, obviously there's going to be an effort from the opposition, or whoever we're negotiating, to try to, divide the coalition, right? And part of of dividing the coalition is giving one member or one group of the coalition, everything that they want, and denying the rest of the participants their benefits. And so there has to be an agreement in the front end saying that no one's going to walk away from the table until everyone gets their benefits. And everyone understands that they're not going to get everything that they want, that every group has a bottom line. And so if everyone in the coalition, all the participants in the coalition agree to the bottom line, I think that that's the key. And then the other thing that's important is constant communication. The organizer has to constantly have a communication with each participant of the coalition, right? And as issues come up, which they might, right, then as an organizer, you constantly need to be making sure that you're addressing some of those issues. Because if those issues don't get addressed, they become bigger and bigger issues, and in the end, they could intervene in any kind of negotiation, right? Because when you're going into the negotiation, you want to go in there rock solid. You want to go there as one group, and you don't want to. That's why the caucuses are so important, right? Especially if you're seeing something that's not going your way or anything. You don't want to have an open discussion with your coalition member in front of the negotiation. That's definitely a no. So you call a caucus. That's why, so you have to agree ahead of time at what point caucuses are triggered, right? And so I hope that answers the question.